Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 167 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comments section below and do my best to answer them for you. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave that question in the comments, and as I say, hopefully you'll be picked for next week. I just want to say very quickly a quick note from the guys over at the SWTVC regarding March Madness. The voting for each round commences on a Monday, a Wednesday and a Friday, and the link is in the description below of this video if you haven't got that link already. It's the same link each time. Once the voting is over for that couple of days, the link then becomes dead. You won't see anything on it until it's reactivated for the next round, if that makes sense. So it's always the same link, and be sure to put your votes in. Check them out on Instagram for any other further info that you need. With all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like down below because it does help the video and the channel. Subscribe if you're new. I'm literally about 6 subscribers away from 25k, which is pretty awesome. So hit the subscribe button if you are new. All right, with all that being said, let's get on to the first question of the week. At One with the Force says, I have a question about army builders. Have Hasbro ever confirmed their intentions around these? A few have now sold out. So does that mean we can no longer see them available to buy, or should we assume that it is just a temporary stock out? I appreciate that the Stormtroopers pack has never been made available again, but I've always put that down to Hasbro realising that there are QA issues with the paint apps, and that there were soon to be superior figures in the offering, so they were less bothered to do so. Thoughts? Thanks again for the great work you do. So I think this has got like sort of two things around it. I think generally they announce something and then they release it, and then obviously you've got that period of time to buy it. Hopefully it won't sell out. Hopefully they make enough of them. But in terms of like, will they keep producing them? They've never sort of confirmed anything, but I think it often comes down to factory slots. So as a company, along with many other companies, they're trying to get their slots in the factories, that time space in the factories. And at the end of the day, Hasbro have got enough stuff in other lines and Star Wars that they're already on that production schedule. So to continuously make the same pack over and over again, it's like when people say, I always think a Stormtrooper should be on the shelves. That would be absolutely fantastic, and I agree with them, they should. You should always be able to buy a Stormtrooper on the shelf. But in reality, that means they need to be sort of producing those on a regular basis every year. And, it just doesn't really make sense in terms of like, the logistics of things. So I think that's what it comes down to, really. As I say, they've never really commented on that, but I would say when those things get released, if you want one, get one, because generally these things don't seem to reappear or get restocked. Dial 3 says, hey boss, great work as always. Question, what 3 characters from season 3 episode 1 of The Mandalorian would you like to see in TVC, and what character stroke ship got you excited? Thanks. Well, definitely, I think the ship that I would really love from that, and it's been in other things as well, is the Mandalorian Gauntlet, or Bo-Katan's Gauntlet Starfighter. I think they've made it in Mission Fleet, as per. They seem to always do that. I would love for them to do that in TVC. I think it's going to feature a lot. I think even Mando might fly in one of the trailers, I believe. In terms of characters, I don't think we've really seen too much range of much going on apart from different painted Mandos. And the pirates, I wasn't too keen on like the Pirate King guy, the seaweed face man. I thought it was a little bit goofy, but I did like the look of the actual pirates that were in Navarro. And in fact, my son, after watching that episode, put these guys together. He customized some figures, and I do like the way that he used Grief Karga's cape thing there on that particular one. I think that looks pretty good, actually. So my son did those, and I love them. So I think if they could give us the pirates, they've already got the head sculpts for all those different aliens, or most of them anyway. That would be pretty cool. But definitely, in terms of the ship, I would love, that Mandalorian Gauntlet. Awesome looking ship. I've done it in Lego as well. So come on, Hasbro. Give us that one. Diego Sandoval says, hey BB, do you think we'll see a TVC Jabba the Hutt to purchase individually this year for the Return of the Jedi anniversary? I think if we don't get it this year, we'll have to wait like 5 to 10 more years to get it, and by then I will already be one with the Force. I think that's on a lot of people's minds, to be honest. That is a legitimate concern, isn't it? But the Jabba the Hutt, it's not something that I've heard of for this year in terms of Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I did hear a rumour. I think I've mentioned this before, actually. I think we've had this question recently, actually. But I have heard that, the Black Series might get a Jabba the Hutt this year. I don't know how long it's been since they've got one. But essentially, the TVC need a Jabba the Hutt on single release because The one that people got in the barge, not everyone's got that one, and not everyone's got the one that melts. I think it's a Toys R Us exclusive, wasn't it? Is it Shadows of the Empire box or something like that? That one that came with the awesome Oola figure, basically. That, you know, is really expensive on the secondary market, and the Jabba the Hutt that comes in that does have a habit of like melting on the bottom and like, you know, going a bit gooey. So I'm all for a Jabba the Hutt, but as you say, you know, I don't think it's going to be a thing. It's not something that I've heard about, so fingers crossed, maybe it'll come later in the year or something. Justin Strasburger says, hello there, do you think we'll ever get a Director Krennic in TVC card back? Also, because of how hard it was to get the Mimbam Stormtrooper because of the Walmart exclusive supply fail, do you think they will do a 4-pack of them or re-release them on card back? And last question, now that they did the Mando and Migs in the Morak disguise with that body sculpt, will we see a TVC Mud Trooper? Thank you, love the channel, keep up the awesome videos. Thank you, Justin, for the question. So yeah, in terms of the Mud Trooper, this is my one that I customised using the Din Djarin figure with the red arm and the helmet and cape from the 5POA version. And I think it turned out great. I would absolutely love it if they, you know, made this one in TVC, on a TVC card back. And then they could do the Han Solo in disguise as well. Unfortunately, I think Solo figures in general, you know, are probably not high on the agenda with Hasbro, and I think that will probably be the fact for the Mimbam Stormtrooper as well. I can't really see a 4-pack of that, to be honest. I think there's far more other things that they could do, like, you know, Rebel Commandos for the Return of the Jedi, officers, clones, things like that, before they get round to doing anything from Solo. Unfortunately, because I did like Solo, you know, I did like the figures from Solo as well. In terms of Director Krennic, I think that one is a very, very strong possibility. Now we do have the officer sculpt for Piet and what have you. I think, you know, potentially we could get lots of different figures that use that body. So, you know, we're talking about Krennic. Thrawn's supposed to be in the Ahsoka series, so maybe we'll get him as well. Yeah, so I would sort of expect those to come pretty soon. Modal Node says, hi Tim, question for next week. The Bad Batch introduced us to yet another awesome clone trooper this week, Commander Mayday. Do you think Hasbro could make him in TVC using the new Phase 2 clone trooper sculpt and soft goods, or would it require an all-new sculpt? I think they'd probably get away with using that body and then maybe wrap some soft goods around it. And for that reason, I think they probably won't do it. Maybe they'll do it for the Black Series, I don't know. But the only thing that I can think of that's maybe a little bit similar to that is like the Magna Guard with his thing that wraps around his head. But you'd need quite a lot of that, wouldn't you, around his arms and everything. Maybe they could sculpt it in plastic. I don't know. But I think, you know, he was, what, is in one episode. I don't think they'll bother really, if I'm honest, from the Bad Batch. I mean, let's face it, we're struggling to get the main characters from the Bad Batch, the actual crew of the Bad Batch. So, but you never know, because they might have the body and that already, and they might use soft goods. It would definitely look cool. I would definitely want it, because I agree with you. He was very, very cool looking. Quadzilla1111 says, question for next week. Looks like we'll see the Mythosaur completely in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. What do you think the chances are of making it into TVC? Similar size to the Rancor and just as iconic, if not more so. Thoughts? I personally think that has got no chance. I know it's a depressing thought, but that's honestly how I feel about it. If we can't even get a blurg into the line, and they can't even re-release the Rancor in the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, or even for when, you know, Fett is riding around it in the Book of Boba Fett, if they can't even re-release that, something they've already got, I can't see them spending a load of money on a massive beast. Honestly, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'd be extremely surprised if that happened. I'd welcome it. It would be awesome. I just can't see it. Riley Bob says, Tim kicking out the content like crazy. 3-hour live stream last night and a 20+ Arspot bounty today. Love it. Keep crushing it. Question for next week. If you could have a TVC dive strictly into definitive versions of characters and had to choose, would you choose sequel characters or prequel characters? I want a definitive The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul or Qui-Gon. Keep up the greatness as always. Cheers. That one's a very easy one for me, buddy. I really like the prequels. You know, I'm an OT man first and foremost, but I did love the prequels. I don't love the sequels so much. So for me, it would always be the prequels. And I think there's so many that we're missing from the Vintage Collection. And I've put just one there. Great character, Watto. Really good design and everything. And that one actually isn't too bad. I mean, the paint apps on him are great, you know, but maybe a fully articulated one there with the wings can flap and stuff like that. on a decent the card back for Watto would be awesome. So I would definitely pick the Prequel Trilogy, easy. And Des T says, awesome Bossk as always, question for next week. It's obviously the 40th anniversary of Jedi this year, but next year will be the 25th silver anniversary of the Phantom Menace. Do you think Hasbro will make a big deal on this? I appreciate let's get this year done first. So I don't think they'd make a big deal of it. I think we could maybe expect like a mini beat of it, a little bit like they're doing with like the Clone Wars this year, possibly. Maybe like 2 to 3 figures sprinkled in there somewhere, but I don't think it'll be like a full-on, you know, celebration anniversary like the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. We've definitely got a lot of that this year, so it won't be anything like that. But yeah, as I just said in the previous question, I'm all for the Phantom Menace and prequels in general, so yeah, bring them on. Andrew Cook says, hey Bossk, love the March Madness stream. Question for next week. There are a lot of non-human species that aren't represented in TVC at all. Trandoshans, Geonosians, Hutts. We know part of that is because there would be extra new tooling costs. If you could pick one species to have added to TVC, what would it be? My choice would be the Kaminoans. That is a great choice, actually. I do like the Kaminoans, and they are seriously missing, aren't they? And they've also been in the Bad Batch and everything, so that's a great choice. I think I'd have to go with Ithorians, perhaps, Hammerhead, and then you could do the Mare and things like that. If not, Mr. Squidhead. What are they called? Quarrens, are they? I think they're called. I just know them as Squidheads because I'm old school. TVC Dadalorian says, Tim, great vid as always, thanks. With the next TVC HasLab, I think just around the corner, do you think it will be a Return of the Jedi 40th themed, or do you think it will be the Ghost and all the Rebels like the rumours? Just can't wait for whatever it is to be announced. I didn't actually know that that was like an official rumour that's going around, that it's going to be the Ghost or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't even know if there is going to be a HasLab right now, do we? But I don't think we could be too far off with maybe some of those suggestions, the Ghost, or maybe something from Return of the Jedi. The Ewok Village would be cool, wouldn't it? But yeah, I wouldn't really want to comment on rumours and speculation at this point in time. We'll just leave it there. Marky D 1967 says, hi BB, question for next week. Do you have any update on Finish the 96, or is it safe to say Hasbro's done with the original 96 remakes and it was nothing more than wishful thinking we'd ever get there? Are there any in the known pipeline? I don't think there's any officially pipelined that are in the original 96. Obviously you've got like Piet, who's an Imperial officer. He wasn't in the original 96, but there was an Imperial officer. I know it is like General Veers' character on the card back, but that's an OT character, right? In terms of the actual original 96, I know of one that is definitely coming this year, or I'm 99.9% sure that is definitely coming this year. Apart from that, I haven't heard anything else. It'll be a good one though. It'll be a good one. Keith Cogain says, another great video. Quick question for next video. When it comes to autograph card backs, how does it affect the grading score? Is the card no longer considered in mint condition with the autograph? That's a great question, and it's something I'm not 100% sure on. All I know is that when I got my Admiral Akbar Tim Rose one signed, the card still got a 90. So, you know, and I don't think the card condition was good enough to get a 95. So in that case, certainly with UKG, the autograph didn't affect the grade, if you like. It could be different with AFA and CAS, I don't know. But yeah, it didn't really affect the grade that I got. Terry Overton says, hi Bossk, love the content. My question is, with so many Children of the Watch showing up in the latest episode of The Mandalorian Season 3, could we possibly get a box set of these new characters from Hasbro? I hope so. Please keep up the good work. As many others say, you are our voice. Thank you, Terry. So, yeah, those Mandalorians, the different coloured ones, I think that's a dead cert. I couldn't tell you when they're going to come, but at the end of the, or how they're going to do it, whether it'll be a four-pack box set or something, army builder. But let's face it, they've got all the sculpts they need for those Mandalorians with the Death Watch Mandalorian that came out. They can just repaint that until the cows come home. So I would definitely expect those at some point. And yeah, a lot of people might be Mandalorianed out, but I'd quite welcome them. I think they look pretty cool. There's one particular one that is in like white and blue. I think it was the one that jumped on the back of that crocodile thing and put the bomb on him and everything. He looked really good colour schemes on that particular one. So 2 similar questions about March Madness here. And GA says, hi BB, question for next week. How much influence does the SWTVC's March Madness bracket have on the decisions and planning Hasbro make for TVC? I would have thought the data holds statistical significance, but maybe I'm missing something. Thanks as always. And July through Nov says, Boss, great video. Question for next week. With regard to March Madness and Emily being in the chat, What number do you think matters? What in terms of the ranking? What is the highest number that matters in your opinion? Top 5, top 10, top 20? Obviously, it's not officially a Hasbro campaign, but we know they are watching. So this is a little bit of a difficult one because, of course, I think it's very good for the community to have these sorts of things like March Madness and for people to run polls and things like that. And I think Hasbro do sort of take notice of it. I think the issue that we have with it is that obviously March Madness ends at the end of March. And, then we as a community are going, right, next year, where are the figures that we all voted for? But in reality, Hasbro have already got the whole of 2024 pretty much planned out already. It takes 18 months to create a figure from, the design to the sort of in hand, if you like, or on store shelves. So the whole of 2024 is pretty much sorted. So we've got no influence over that really, by which time we would have done another March Madness, So I think it does help. They probably add it to other data. And I also think that when you look at the March Madness, a lot of the figures that are on there are like current media figures, things that are in people's minds at the time, Bad Batch figures, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, characters from the Rebels show are still on people's minds. And I think that's even more reinforced because they're potentially going to be in Ahsoka and things like that. So I think it's difficult for Hasbro because obviously they see all the wants and needs, but then they've also got to juggle around their schedule of what's coming out in terms of media wise. And they've always got to sprinkle in a bit of an original trilogy because it is the vintage collection and it's based on Kenner. So they always have to give us some of that. But I think, as I said, it's a good thing, the March Madness. I absolutely love it. And I'm sure they look at the data and then just add it to other data that they have. Aquilish Doug says, great video and hilarious March Madness live stream. Question for next week. With VC 300 fast approaching and considering this figure must be in development manufacture at this stage, which character would you like to see other than Garandan? Well, to be honest, when I'm thinking about what potentially is going to be coming out this year, I can't foresee any of the big main characters from the original trilogy, which would be a perfect VC 300, like Luke Skywalker or Leia or something. Can't see that happening, unfortunately. So maybe if it would be like if they are going to do Grand Admiral Thrawn from Ahsoka when that happens, maybe save it for like a big character like that, or if they were ever to do Krennic or something with a bit of significance, not just some random trooper or something like that. I think Hasbro don't really care about the numbers particularly. I think they made a big deal out of VC200 because the community were. Other than that, I don't think they really care, to be honest. Alright then folks, that's it for this week's episode. If you do have a question that you want answered, please leave it in the comment section below. Let's keep this series going. Thank you for everybody that left a question for this week. I want to thank everybody for watching, and also a special thanks to my Patreon and channel members. Your support means a great deal to me as always. So thanks everybody for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.